Listen, all right, DJ Mickey D. Welcome to my program. Is everything that it is. Love having you. Love seeing you. How have you been, man?
The legendary Pete Walker. I am so happy to be here. I've been good, man. You know, like we were saying, the last time you seen me, I was running out of a truck with my thumbs hanging off. So
Well, it is true. That is 100% true statement.
it is.
It is. And is there anything you would like to say? Any words of wisdom to anybody out there that plans on leaving their truck with both their thumbs?
Yeah, let go of the trust before it comes across the loading bar.
Ah,
Or you know what? Let the fucking hands do it.
oh.
There you go.
Well, Mickey, now that I have you here, let me tell you something. I always say, let the stagehands carry the trust.
Yeah, man.
It's a repeat statement that I make because I've had my wrist twisted several times in my life by picking up a truss, somebody turning it, twisting it, especially a long piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always very adamant that I don't want to carry the truss because of those reasons, right? So you get taken out in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah,
Our very next show is in DC.
that's right.
Okay, and when we had breakfast, you bet your ass that what did I say? What do I tell you guys all the time? Don't handle the truss. Let the stagehands do it.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Perfect example. You remember Mickey who used to be on tour with us? Right? Just for example, right?
That's right.
So we're loading out. True story. We're loading out in DC. And what do you think is coming? A couple of our guys carrying that long ass 24 truck with one of the fucking local hands all pumped up and jacked up on crack. I'm like, you got to be fucking shitting me. Don't you remember? Our, again, look around. Who's not here and why?
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it sucked. But Firehouse and the production company took care of me.
Oh, that's what they
Um,
do.
yeah, I got paid for the rest of the run, which was very nice. And the way that I've kind of kept positive about it is that of all the injuries I've seen over the years, me fucking my thumb up is the least of it.
Nice.
So
Yeah, you have seen some injuries on the gig before.
a couple, a
Yeah.
couple. To tell you though, what comes to mind though is that cursed VMAs. I think it was 2019 when they didn't have the stage marked off properly, and day two, Brian fell off the stage, broke his ribs.
Yeah.
There was a local stagehand that OD'd on fentanyl that Charlie had to give like that massage to out in the parking lot.
Oh, that's what they're calling it.
And yeah, and then
He didn't know he was ODing.
yeah, and then Jay Morgan the day before the show fell off the stage in the same spot that
Yeah.
Brian fell, broke his wrist, broke his ankle, and then I found out fairly recently that a freaking a local that was driving a fork had a heart attack and died. I mean, that gig was cursed.
That gig
So
was cursed.
I'll take my broken thumb.
Yeah, no doubt. And until you've walked on a video floor, you
Mhm.
really can't understand what we're talking about with that sensation of when the video floor is changing and
Mhm.
doing its thing and you're walking on it. It's very uncomfortable, especially when the blackness is the walk off that you're not
Yeah.
realizing.
Yeah, it's disorienting. And on that particular stage, they had all the cutouts for the mosh pits.
Yeah.
And Brian and Jay fell into the same hole. And,
Wow.
and it was
I didn't know that they went into the same hole.
it wasn't like they went one after the other, but they fell into like help them.
Somebody.
But yeah, man, they fell off the same spot, and it wasn't until after Jay fell that they started putting like the road cones with the
Hey,
like
maybe you should do something about this. We're
yeah, yeah.
losing the crew.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a tough one.
Yeah, the last couple of VMAs I did, we had the cones in the coned off area, which is what you need. I mean, and especially the fact that you don't want to lose the artist either. but for the camera
Right.
guys, for all of us walking around during rehearsals,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not a lot to
dangerous,
ask for.
man. Like people, that's one thing. People like when they kind of what is the word I'm looking for? Romanticize working in the entertainment industry. Um, they really just have no fucking idea
Oh,
that, like, the bonds and the brotherhood that we have, like, you and I and Firehouse guys and different people in different departments. But like, people would be hard pressed to work the hours that we work in the conditions that we work in, and it's a dangerous job.
yeah, we're in the concert construction business, as I
Hmm.
tell people, that it is, you know, so many people when they think about the music business think about like hanging out in a recording studio and doing that kind of thing. And I never wanted to do that because the vibe is just a crusher.
Sure.
And then what's the reality of working in a studio is it's listening to a Pepto Bismol commercial 72 times.
Yeah,
That's
seriously. I mean,
that.
that sucks too.
And
It's like, yeah, you might be on a session that's amazing, but I think
yeah,
90% of the time, it's, it's just a repetitive, just soul crushing work.
yeah, just like what we do.
That's right. Yeah, it's called sport.
Repetitive, soul crushing. The thing is that the hours are longer, and
That's right.
my hands get dirty. And at
Right.
60 years old, I'm still crawling on my hands and knees looking for a sub cable underneath the stage.
Nah, I feel you there, man. I'll tell you the same thing. Have the fucking hands do it.
Yeah, well, you know what is I try to still live the mantra that I don't ask anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do myself.
That's
So I
right.
always like to get the hard work and get my hands dirty and get down on it and get in it, because later on in the day when I'm asking someone half my age to do it, I don't want to hear any shit about it.
No, I feel that. And that's why you guys, like you and Simon, and like the king of them all, Kenny.
Oh,
Kenny will outwork all of us. And
yep.
he's like in his fucking 70s, and
72. Yep.
72.
Yep.
And but having that work ethic is really, it's very inspiring for all of us.
Yeah, you know what? It just comes from this thing that's ingrained in all of us, that not just in the industry, but especially amongst us, is that we're just so ingrained with this need that we have to get the job done. That
Hmm.
job must get done, no matter what, no matter how uncomfortable I am, no matter how awful this is, no matter what, we have to get the job done.
That's
you
right.
know because I tell people that the master of all the concert business, the master of events, is time.
Hmm.
Time is the master. We load in at a certain time, we have lunch at a certain time, sound checks at a certain time, the shows at a time, the loadouts at a time, the truck's got to leave by a certain time. I got to get to the airport a certain time to
Right.
fly back home. It's all about time management. And once you really wrap your head about that time management, and number two, there's only lulls in between the next thing that has to happen.
That's right.
you know
And what's really helped me over the years with the grind of the long hours is my martial arts. Because no matter how tired I get on a gig, I will never be physically exhausted like I am when I'm doing kickboxing.
yeah,
I'll never push myself to the point where I think I'm going to throw up. So I always know that I can just dig deeper and I can get through it no matter how tired I am.
good to have a reservoir to go to.
Yes.
For me, I'm reaching for the 5-hour energy. I'm going to need some chemical help, people.
Yeah, that's right.
Exercise is not going to cut this. Mickey, tell me, how is it that you first got into the business?
I went to, I guess, I started DJing when I was 13 and fell in love with music and got in a lot of trouble when I was a teenager and kind of a wild guy. And when I was in 11th grade, my guidance counselor told me about Full Sail. And I saw that book, and I carried it with me everywhere. And I knew I was going to go to Full Sail.
Now, let me ask you this. What year was that?
What year did I go to Full Sail, or what year did I find out?
What year were you in 11th grade?
1997.
97. Okay, great.
Yep. So, a few years after high school, I was throwing raves and stuff up in Albany. Finally got my life together, moved to Florida, went to Full Sail, met my buddy Carl. We both moved up to the city. He started working at SIR. I was doing events in the city.
Yep. Let me
And,
stop you right there.
you know,
Where, first off, where'd you grow up at?
I grew up in a little town called Waterford, which is about 20 minutes north of Albany, New York.
Okay, great. So you are an indigenous upstater.
I am, yeah, real upstate. And when I said little town, like there were I think there was 60 or 50 or 60 people in my graduating high school class.
Wow. Now,
Yes.
when you went to Full Sail, was that your first time to Florida?
No, I had gone to Florida like on vacations for to Disney and stuff, and I had also a few times gone down to Miami for the Winter Music Conference, which is like a big electronic music conference.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Music conference.
That's the code word.
Yeah, just wanted to throw that in it. Now,
Yeah.
when you went to Full Sail, were you living? Was there an on campus like where did you live down there?
There's no dorms at Full Sail. It's all apartments.
Yep.
So I had a little studio apartment down there, and I was one of the very, very few who worked while I was there. The Full Sail curriculum is nuts. Like you'll be going into lab from 12 at night till 4 in the morning, and back in class at 8 in the morning because they're really trying to recreate or create the grind of the entertainment industry. And so the entire time I was there, I was working as well, so I could pay my rent.
Where were you working?
At the Orlando Improv, I was a bartender. So, and that I tell you, like a side note of that, when I was in college, within 1 year, I lost both my mother's parents died, and they're the grandparents
Oh,
I was really close
yeah.
to, and my younger brother died. And
Oh,
so having a job at the Orlando Improv where every weekend I could go and laugh,
yeah.
it got me through. It really did. And I have friends. I still have friends. I'm still friends with people that I work with there. It was the they had just opened the club. I was part of the first crew to get hired there, and it was a good time.
Yeah, you're young, you're full of energy, you're in Florida because you're on a mission, you
Yeah.
know, and then you're the thing too about that, which is much to do with concerts, is that you're in a live environment.
Oh yeah.
We're all there collectively for a purpose. We're there for a festive reason. There is a stage, there's somebody on it performing. It's got all the elements of what you do today.
Yeah, and I mean, you go to Full Sail with a dream.
Yep.
You go there to either work in the audio industry or the film industry or the gaming industry, but you have a dream. It's not like another college where you go there and you're taking some liberal arts courses.
Yeah, yeah. Your third year of gender studies, and you're still pouring coffee for a living. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still studying the other gender.
Aren't we all, right?
Yeah, right.
So, what degree did you come out of Full Sail with?
I earned a degree in recording engineering, a bachelor's of science in recording engineering. And then right when I graduated from that program, they had launched a entertainment business
Oh,
program. So I was actually part of the first class to go through that curriculum.
interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I bet. And so after that, and you're down there for what, 2 years?
2 years,
2 years. So what year do you move to New York? New York City.
2005.
Oh, 05, you come to New York City.
That's right.
Right? And you're young and you're fresh and you're right out of Full Sail.
Yep.
Oh, 05. I'm at Radio City at that point. Yeah, good times. That's why I love the line about the timeline, because I want to know
Yes.
where I was when you were doing this and that, right?
Yeah, man.
So you get back to New York and you bring a buddy with you, and what is your guys' plan when you get there?
So I moved to New York and I moved in with a friend of mine who had graduated from Full Sail about a year before I did. And he was working at Battery Studios. Um,
Okay.
he actually got me an offer to be having a paid internship there. At the
Huge.
same time, I received an offer to have an unpaid internship at this company called Dalzell Productions, an event production company that did major events like the Tribeca Film Festival and other things of that nature. And I just, from like all the parties I threw in high school and to becoming a rave promoter, I just loved event production. So at that time, I just said, you know what, like I'm gonna go do the event thing.
Yeah, nice. And how long were you with them?
I was with them for 1 year, let's say, and then I received an offer to be an event coordinator at a college up in Troy, New York called RPI.
Now, before, did you take the jump to RPI?
I did.
Before that, did you turn into a paid position at that company?
I did. Started off probably the first 3 months was an unpaid internship, and then I became a associate event producer. So I got paid to work on the Tribeca Film Festival and paid to work on other big events that they were doing.
Nice, nice. And you'd go in and do coordination crap.
Yeah, like just one thing that was cool was one thing that's two things that stick out. I was kind of like the arrivals manager for a venue during the festival, and I got to escort Nicole Kidman in, and she's like the love of my life. So that was pretty cool to do that. And
Nice.
kind of like my first experience, like getting dealing one on one with celebrities
Yeah.
and learning how to deal with celebrities and treating them like just another person.
That's the trick, man.
That's right.
Great. So you're working this Tribeca Film Festival,
Yes.
which I've done before several times. I just can't remember when, but I know this. It was always downtown, outside, and a couple times I was there for inclement weather. So I promised myself I would never go back, and I didn't.
Yeah. I made myself that same promise. I worked on the Intrepid one time. Like, never again.
I say never again, but I go back to Central Park every year. But I don't know why they canceled this. Right. Okay, so you get out of that and you take this gig in Troy, New York. So now you do you pack up your apartment? You're splitting this place. You said, I'm out of here. I'm going to Troy. That's my next move up the ladder here.
I took it because I needed a paid gig. I
Oh
needed a
yeah.
full-time job.
Yep.
Those wholesale loans are kicking in,
Sure.
and I had to be able to make my nut for the month.
Yep.
But the whole time that I was up in Troy, I was managing these parties. They were called Toshi parties, and they were at the Puck Building, right down on somewhere in like downtown area, off Houston Street.
Wait,
And
wait, wait. The Puck Building was
yeah,
at Lafayette and Houston.
that's right. That's right.
I've done gigs there.
Yeah. So we would throw these parties there. We would do 5 parties a year and have like 4,000 people there. We would have the entire ground floor as well as the top floor as a VIP lounge.
Yep.
And I started off as just an just a volunteer. And that's what, one thing that I tell people a lot when I talk to them about getting into the entertainment industry is just volunteer. Volunteer and show your work. So I started off as a volunteer, and within 6 months, I became the production manager and was making good money per show. And I did that to just because I loved it. It was a lot of fun, but just to keep active in the city.
And too, is that there's no small jobs.
That's right.
Every job is important, which is why it's there. We're all cogs in the machine. You might be a bigger cog, but you're a cog nonetheless. And I try to emphasize to people that no matter what you're doing, just be as good as you can at it. Be the best at whatever that thing is that you're doing.
That's right.
And that's how. I mean, how could I trust you with a bigger project if I see you don't give a fuck about this one,
That's right. That's exactly right.
right?
And that's true. I was talking with Gail DePoli the other day,
Love
and
her.
I said something like, I really appreciate being um like just a small part of these big shows that you run. And she said the same exact thing. She's like, we're all small parts. You know, we all have to do our job, and we all have to do it well, because if one person fucks up, it can take down the show.
Oh, which is why we have so much wash, rinse, and repeat of the crews that we see on these big shows,
That's right.
because nobody wants to take a chance with a new guy, because what if he fucks up?
That's right.
You know, who recommended him? Why is he here? You
Yeah,
know,
that guy's fired too.
yeah, what are we saving here, money wise? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, I go to work with a couple of semis of audio. We start unloading it, and there is no conversation
No, there's
amongst
not.
us. We're just doing it. We all know our part as the cogs in the machine, and we're just
Mhm.
executing as we go. And that's the part about working with a group, working with a team, and having the same folks again and again. You know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that I remember one of the first gigs I had ever done with Firehouse was the a YouTube award show down at Basketball City. And that was the first time I ever met Kenny. And we go in,
I was
and
there.
you were there. It was when the like the Eminem performance live and Lady Gaga, they set up all the different stages.
Yeah, we had the two different stages, and I remember I met the guy from Evil Dead, that actor.
Yeah, what's his name? I love Evil Dead. You know what? I'll show you. I'll
He
show
was
you.
on my he was on my stage.
Yeah. Evil Dead. I love it.
Yeah. It was the first YouTube upfront. It was a YouTube show, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A YouTube show where all the bands created a video live, and it was
Yeah,
pretty cool. But like, like you were saying, like we walked in there and there's really no conversation. Everyone just falls in line and starts doing what they're doing.
yeah.
And Kenny could see, I'm kind of like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? And he's just like, come with me, so I've always appreciated him for that. I always appreciated people who um don't don't look down on people who don't have that particular experience,
Yeah.
because we were all at that point at one time, and there's no secrets to be kept. You know what I mean? It's like, what, you have a secret way of flying PA? Fuck you. You know?
Brother, you're 100% right. And whenever I'm tired and I'm at work and this is going on, and now we got an issue with it, I always keep in my frontal lobe here that I wanted this so bad. I remember wanting this, that I wanted this. I would have done anything to get it to be at this level of things. Here I am, and here we are, and that's what we're doing. And the other thing is that treating the new guy any other way but cordial is lame.
It
You know,
sucks.
I mean, I'm willing to crack on somebody, have no doubt, but
Sure.
but bringing you into the fold, because making you better is better for me.
That's right.
It's better for all. A rising tide lifts all boats.
And it's like just the consideration
Fuck Peter Walker.
that, I met Simon. How I got into Firehouse because of Simon.
Mm-hmm.
And I had met Simon when I was stage managing and backline tech for hall&oats. So he brought me in because he believed in me and believed in my skill set and my ability to learn. It's not like someone's going to show up on one of these gigs that have these tight knit crews and we're doing the biggest shows and they have no reason to be there.
Yeah.
So just treat him with respect.
Yeah, we all have a reason and a place in a place in the machine, man.
Yeah.
That's absolutely for sure. So let's take a step back, right?
Yep.
We got you working up in Troy, in Troy, New York. How long are you up there for?
Less than a year. I hated that job.
I hated the job, the people, and the place, but besides that, it was okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me, you know.
How'd you escape?
I got fired.
Because what did you do?
So I was part of the special events team, and so it's kind of like a management position. And RPI had this loophole where you could take up to like 100 sick days per year.
Oh, a
And
hundred.
you could take so many sick days. And I just took sick days all the time. And one of the worst parts was my mom was a vice president there at the time. And so
Oh,
she would travel a lot for work, and I was partying a lot. And so I would come in and just lock her off his door and go to sleep on the couch. And at the end of the day, get up and go home.
and what's your mom's first name?
Kathy.
So, Kathy, turns out that your son's a bit of a douche, and we can't trust him.
Luckily, we worked in completely different departments, so it didn't matter.
Nice. Oh, you don't think that went downstream?
I don't care.
Kids, so naive.
She's so proud of me now.
Yeah, yeah. Don't worry, she's proud of you.
Yeah. So yeah, that didn't last long, and then I got a job at Dave and Buster's as an event planner in the Palisades Mall. But what that job allowed me to do was to move back. I moved to West New York, New Jersey, which is right outside the Lincoln Tunnel, and that's where my buddy Carl, who I became like best friends with at college at Full Sail, he was there working at SIR. My buddy Grant was there. He was there working as a video editor, so they were making moves in the city, and got fired from that job too.
Why did they fire you there?
Because what did the fuck that guy say to me? The general manager, Brian, pulled me aside and said that I don't bleed orange and blue. And I said, fucking nobody does. You know what I mean?
I don't believe orange and blue.
I don't bleed. Like the corporate colors of Dave and Buster's are orange and blue, and I didn't bleed orange and blue. So I wasn't cut out to work there. So
I just got to take that in for a second. I got to take that in for a second. So, where do you think this guy is today in the shows that he's doing?
I mean, the dude, I think he's probably still like a general or regional manager for Dave and Buster's. You know?
You're not bleeding the colors.
I'm not bleeding the color. Okay. Whatever the fuck.
Mickey, I'm starting to think that you're not 100% into this.
Like, you are 100% correct. I am not 10% into this.
Okay, so just because you didn't get the tattoo, I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you're out of there. What's your next gig?
Going on tour with Jay-Z.
No way, and that was Backline.
That was as a Pro Tools technician.
No doubt. What year is this?
That would be 2006 or 2007.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And my buddy Carl owned, him and his buddy Doug started a Pro Tools company called G2. And at the time, they were doing all the Pro Tools rentals for SIR. And I had just gotten fired from Dave and Buster's, and Carl was like, "Yo, you want to go on tour with Jay-Z?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I do."
Yep.
And that's where it all started.
What type of a Pro Tools rig did you take out with that?
We had a dual blah 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 blah, a dual 48 channel rig. So, the Big Mac towers. Yep. Probably if it was 48 rigs, 48 channels, it must have been 3 input card, 3 output cards. If there's 16 channels per card, I think that's correct. And yeah, it was a pretty sweet rig. But I was talking about this the other day. Like, I mean, the input cards back then cost $10,000.
Whoa.
And now you can get a 96 channel Pro Tools rig for less than 10 G's. So they were at the cutting edge of the technology at the time, but man, that became obsolete real quick.
Interesting. And how many inputs of Pro Tools were you providing for the tour?
It was a playback, so it was output, and it was 48 channels redundant.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm sure. And how long did that last for you?
That Jay-Z tour was cool because I think it was like maybe like a month and a half long, but he was touring on the American Gangster album that it came out, which was not the soundtrack to, but just inspired by the movie with Denzel. And it was all club dates. So like we did like, like House of Blues in Chicago and all these kind of like maybe 1,000, 1,500 person venues, but it was Jay-Z. So I mean the vibe was amazing. And that actually led to one of my most incredible DJing experiences. We were at Hammerstein and Funkmaster Flex was opening up for Jay-Z. Funkmaster Flex had to leave and Jay-Z was late. So I went up to the tour manager. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
I went up to the tour manager, Randy Bazzelli, and was like, "Yo, Randy, I'm a DJ. Can I play?" He's like, "Yeah." So I went and set up my rig, and my best friend George, he was a lawyer at some big law firm in Midtown at the time, and he's a huge hip hop fan. So I'm hitting him up, and he's hitting me with all these New York classic hip hop tracks that I have on my computer. And I mean, I rocked that venue for like 40 minutes before Jay-Z showed up.
Nice,
It
man.
was dope. It was so
Nice.
cool.
Fucking nice, man.
Yeah,
And that
man.
was oh 07, oh 06.
Yeah, '07 around there. Yeah, the beginning of '08. Probably, yeah, the end of '07 because it was definitely the fall.
Yeah, because I have seen DJs in the Hammerstein completely completely lose the crowd, lose everything, lose their shit, and lose it all, and have the whole thing go horribly wrong.
Oh,
So
it was awesome.
I love hearing that, especially from you.
Yeah,
But
no, it was so cool. So yeah, so that was my first tour. And that led directly into so Carl, when he was a backline tech at SIR, that's how he met Huggy, the tour manager for the time of Mary J. Blige. You know
I,
Huggy?
I know Huggy.
And so Huggy got picked up, or Carl got picked up. And he had also at that time met Pete Moshe, who was the production manager for Hall and Oates.
Yeah.
So Carl started touring with Mary and Hall and Oates. And because of his schedule, he needed someone to fill in for him on Hall and Oates at, doing backline and all that stuff. And I had never really set up drums before. So I was like,
Symbols up.
yes, but like my friend, what's his name? Can't remember his name right now. This dude who's an incredible drum tech. Um, he met me over at SIR on 25th Street one day and showed me like the basics for tech and drums and setting up drums.
Drum
So
101.
yeah, and that's all I needed. I got out there and started working with Hall and Oates, and they gave me the gig and worked my way up to stage manager.
Tell me about your first night with Hall & Oates. Where were you?
We were in Florida.
Okay.
I forgot what venue we were in, but we were in Florida. And I remember Mike Braun was the drummer at the time. Mike Braun was the drummer for Hall & Oates for like 20 years. And I had set up his drum kit. He comes out, he's like, "What the fuck is this?"
Would you have the snare in front of the kick drum?
So, and I remember I said to him, I said, "Show me how you want it. Show me one time and I'll have it perfect. Every other time he's like, no, you won't."
I've seen your previous work. No,
um,
really, I'll take a picture. We'll measure.
yeah, right. Yeah, but I soon learned, even with like the locking nuts and putting tape on the thing, it didn't matter. He moves shit everywhere.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter unless you're going to do 80s style. That's going to come out of the truck.
That's right.
On the riser, bolted together, and fork it into place.
Right. Yeah. There was no Gibraltar rack. It was just wherever Mike wanted his shit.
Yeah, drummers tinkering around. I mean, I've seen. I saw Charlie Watts during a show that Nattel was where he got off the drum riser during the song. It was fixing the fringe on his carpet, then got back on, started playing again.
Yeah, man.
You can't stop a drummer from doing his thing.
I tell you though, I mean, it was an intense gig because I was setting up Mike's drums.
Yeah.
Charlie, the saxophone player, who's been with them from day one, he has his horn rig with, his effects rack and his keyboards and his percussion. And then there was the percussion player at the time, Everett Bradley, who became a dear friend of mine. And then Elliot Lewis playing keys. So it was like, John had his own guitar tech and Daryl had his own guitar tech, and then the band was me. So it was an incredible learning experience, and then to move up to stage management while still being backline tech, and just
Yeah, because they got rid of the stage manager. Well, who's left? Hey, Mickey, in your free time, when you get a chance.
But it's like one of those things where I tell people like, don't don't worry about the money, especially when you're just starting. Like, don't turn down something because they're not going to pay you an extra $500. Do
Bro,
it from the experience because it's going to pay off in the long run.
you always take the opportunity.
Yep.
Always take the opportunity. You know, if you're looking to make money and you're looking for the quick money, let me tell you something. Get out of this business and go do
Yeah.
something else. Start a roofing company. Everyone needs a roof.
Yeah.
No one needs a stage manager. It's very few.
That's
Who needs a music A2 that you're going to pay a six-figure job to? The fucking number is very, very small.
yeah, it is very small.
It's very small. You have to be so goddamn good, and you have to live in a certain geographical area to be considered a candidate for such a position.
Like this guy.
Like this guy, double thumbing it.
Double thumb.
And that's Mickey, when people ask me about getting into the business and how do you get into this, I tell everyone point blank, if you do not live in Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, don't even consider it. Don't even consider it. Not a consideration.
100%.
Because you can't work 12 months a year local, and touring do you want to do it 12 months a year for the rest of your life? I mean, the answer is no, if you can.
Right.
And on top of that, touring wages for most people are garbage.
Mm-hmm.
To this day. Their touring wages are shit because it's all run by the lowest bidders.
Mm-hmm. No, I've been lucky enough to go back to Full Sail a bunch of times as a guest lecturer.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, man, I love doing it. I love doing it. And that, along with telling people to volunteer, I tell them, I'm like, if you're not planning or you're not willing to move to an A or a B market, what are you doing here?
Oh,
You can go
yeah.
home and set up your little studio and have fun with that project and not make money on it, not make a living off it, and then working at Guitar Center. But if you want to be serious, you have to go where the action is.
That's it, man. You got to move the people where the food is.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew when I lived in Cleveland that I would never get a bigger piece of the pie. I could only be part of a bigger pie.
Yeah.
And that's how I saw it. That I saw people on television miking up people. I was like, well, there's got to be a sound guy there. There's got to be a sound guy. Someone's got to be mixing for the studio audience. There's, I mean, but when you're doing the funnel cake tour and you're doing the Pepsi Country Music Festival and this kind of shit, and I'm on stage for 14 hours at a crack, not with one moment of peace, and I drove the semi there, and I'm getting paid less than somebody that works at Burger King for the same amount of hours. It's like, what is this all about? Why am I even doing this anymore?
Right. And I mean, it does have, like, if you're not able at the very moment to move to an A or a B market, and you are able to go home and you have that hustler's mentality where you're going to work these lower pay, lower wage, lower profile gigs, you will get experience, but you have to make the move.
Yeah, and another thing too is that you'll also get the wrong experience. There's a lot to be said for like the company Claire Brothers would never hire anybody with experience because they don't want to untrain you. They don't want to go through the process of untraining your incorrect ways that somebody had taught you incorrectly in the last gig that you were at.
Yeah.
They'd rather have somebody right out of the orphanage that they could pour into their brain their own methodology of doing things, and there's a lot to be said for that.
There is. It's just with Claire and PRG and VER and like these big corporations, I find that their rates are shit.
Oh, of
And
course.
so that's where it's like, okay, you want to train these guys, but you ain't paying them anything. I remember doing a gig, fucking Mysteryland up at Bethel Woods for VER. It was like the best gig I've ever done and the worst gig I've ever done.
Why was it the best?
Because my buddy Woody, he was working for VER at the time. He brought me in and I got to mix sound on this tiny little stage called Sin Salida, no exit. And it was like a Day of the Dead theme. It was this group came over from the Netherlands, and the vibe was amazing. And I love house music. I love techno. So when the main stage shut down and all the other big stages shut down, I was like, fuck it, let's keep going. And at like 3 a.m, there was a sea of people just vibing at this stage.
Awesome.
So the next day, we come back we have a strike day. And I'm kind of working by myself and just going, there's like 10 stages. And I'm like, all right, this ain't bad. At 7 o'clock, we find out that is at 7 o'clock was the time that the local labor, and it wasn't any union, it wasn't any labor that had any experience. It was just local yokels.
Down. Yep.
Yeah, they were only contracted to be there until 7 o'clock. So it was optional if they wanted to stay longer. What do you think they all did?
They've gotten they got in that one car that they all that clown car that they all came in because it was the only one that started.
That's right. So it's like this bare bones VER crew, and it's not like a cohesive family like Firehouse. Like these motherfuckers, it was like we were not working together. And we were there till 4 a.m, cross-loading bullshit onto like U-Haul trucks. And it was $350 a day flat rate. And I said, never again.
Yeah, that's a tough 350.
Yeah. And then to make it worse, so I get home at like 5 a.m, and I had to go do a Firehouse gig with Mark. We were on top of some roof doing like the NYU graduation. It was hot as fuck out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. And Mark's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I worked a VER gig last night. He's like, yeah, go get the feeder.
Wait a second. On the roof of a parking garage?
No, like the roof of some hotel or something. It was the roof of some building in the city where there was an NYU graduation.
Gotcha.
And it was so hot.
So how long are you on the road with hall&oats?
I worked with hall&oats and also Mary J. Blige during this time, because Carl moved on to work with Beyonce and bigger artists. I worked with them from 2008 until 2013.
Oh, good run, man.
Yeah, yeah.
2013 is the year I met you. So 2013, you come work for Firehouse and you start doing your first big gig with them was the iHeart Radio show in Las Vegas.
That's right, September 2013.
Yep, and that's a big gig.
That's a big gig. That's a big gig, and I worked with you very briefly on that gig, and then I got moved along to work with some other people, who I've eventually became friends with, but I always appreciated you so much because you were so kind to me.
Fuck Peter Walker.
And because I didn't know what the fuck a 7-wire was. I didn't know the lingo.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Simon just trusted me from my experience touring. And it wasn't my favorite gig. I can say that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a favorite of mine for multiple reasons.
Yes.
But I will say this, it was definitely at that point that we could say that you've made the jump to Lightspeed.
Oh yeah.
It was definitely the biggest gig happening in the country at that time. And that's kind of how I look at it when I'm at work and I look around and think, is this the biggest gig happening in the country right now? Most likely the answer is yes.
Yeah.
you know,
And what was beautiful about that was when I was touring, when I started touring, my idea was that what I thought I wanted was to do the biggest tours and the longest tours. And it didn't take long for me to figure out that's not what I wanted.
I might get what I wished for here. Easy.
Yeah.
Pump the
Yeah.
brakes.
Yeah. I don't want to be on. I remember Simon told me one time they were on a fucking tour for so long. They were sitting in the back of the bus. Not only did they not know what day it was, they didn't know what month it was.
Oh yeah.
And so to have like that aspiration and then realize that that's not what I wanted, but then to be able to make a transition and start working with the best audio company in the world and doing the biggest shows, that fulfilled that aspiration for me.
Yeah, once you get there, you could take the deep breath and just say, "Okay, I'm there." And
Yeah.
and from here on out, it's all about my performance and understanding that I'm responsible for what I say, for what I do, and I'm the cog in the machine here to facilitate and make this thing happen no matter what. When you got injured on the tour, immediately we're a man down,
Yeah.
and there was zero conversation about what happened next.
Mhm.
I mean, I immediately stepped up. Okay, so now I'm going to do these wedges. And now I'm going to pick up these cables downstate. Now I'm going to run this thing here. And this other guy's going to do it. Like everyone just
Yeah.
completely took a left, take a step, and filled the fucking gap because that's the team that you can count on.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
The team just comes together and makes it a little tighter because the gig still has everything has to be done.
Back to everything's got to be done.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be done, and everybody's a team player, and everybody, for the most part, is able to step up into the next spot about it,
Sure.
and do the next thing. So
I wonder
20,
though, let me ask you, what was
please.
like what was was there like a wow, Mickey does a lot, or like wow, Mickey don't do shit?
No, it was Mickey who?
Yeah, right?
Was Mickey ever here?
Like,
It's
I want this guy's gig. He don't do anything.
what I said. Having Mickey here is like sending three guys home, taking us back. We're working backwards. Are we
Yeah,
loading
right?
in or loading out? I can't even tell by his workflow.
Yeah, I believe it.
I mean, Mickey, for Christ's sakes, I mean, in my lifetime, I've shown up to an arena show, backed the semi up to the dock. I get there and they say, "Where's the rest of the crew?" I said, I'm it."
I feel that I was working. I manage. I'm part of this like little private social club. You were there, Club Curious in Brooklyn.
I love that place.
Oh,
Club
beautiful.
Curious in Brooklyn. Yeah.
That's right. So the club was a venue for the New York City Winter Jazz Fest, and we had a couple weeks ago, and I was gonna go there and manage like mix for the bands and manage the streaming, all that stuff, and then that day, I found out like the people, the organizers of the festival, were sending over like an SIR backline order. I'm like, okay, the guys are gonna come set everything up. SIR shows up. I was like, you start setting up. They're like, we're not setting shit up. I'm like, what? So
Dropping it
okay,
off.
I understand what's happening here now. I'm like, I'm
Did
lucky I
you
know
pay
how to
for a
do
guy?
this. Well, no, they didn't pay for a guy. But it was cool. I always, from my drum tech days, I always carry a drum key in my backpack, and
Nice.
it's like I know how to do all this shit, so it has to be done. So I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that's a great club too.
Yeah, man, I love it there.
Let me take you back to 2013, okay?
Yep.
So you get your first big television multi-band event under your belt. You get on the airplane, you go back home, you got this one behind you. What happens from there?
I get hired as a A2 at the View.
As a production A2.
Yes, yeah, in
And just
November.
to explain the difference for anyone that watches this, if anybody ever does that. The music A2 deals strictly with the band, and a production A2 deals with the speaking talent. Correct? Gotcha.
Yeah.
So,
So
so mic it up. So you get your job there, and how is it transferring from a rock and roll show kind of world into this television studio environment, especially a show as specific as The View?
it was, it was a learning experience. But again, coming from touring and the long hours of touring and the grind of touring. I mean, television is definitely a different kind of grind.
Yep.
But it's more of like a grind of will to like make it through the day. Like, man, like an 18-hour gig with Firehouse feels so much shorter than 8 hours here.
Yeah, kind of like a Chinese water torture. It's one
Yes.
drip at a time that's torturing you to death.
But I tell you, at the time, my who Bob Lampel was the tech manager for the show, and he became a very good friend and mentor of mine. And Bob gave me so many opportunities there. I was able to do Pro Tools playback. I was able to mix monitors. Bob put me on as Ryan Seacrest A2 every New Year's Eve. So I had a guy there who believed in me like Simon does. And it was really cool in the sense that um I wasn't pigeonholed. I was able to go in there and I wasn't the guy who, this is my gig, this is what I'm going to do. I'm the guy who wants to make myself as valuable as possible across the board so I can advance in my career.
Yeah, nice. And how long were you there for?
9.5 years.
That is a hell of a run.
Yeah. Yeah. 9.5 years.
9.5.
The whole time also freelancing for Firehouse. So
Yeah.
it was pretty incredible.
So when you weren't at The View and when they had downtime, you'd go out and you'd pick up television events around the country.
Yeah, and the Jingle Ball tour. What was cool was like Bob allowed me to freelance, and I I pretty much freelance more than anyone else there. But it I probably, the View, they're dark 3 months out of the year, so the season's 9 months. I was probably there on average about 6.5 months out of the year, and the other 2.5 months I was on the road doing gigs with Firehouse.
Yeah, that's great. And what were some of your what's some of the gigs that really stood out for you that you freelanced on during your time at The View?
At Firehouse, I always loved the Jingle Ball tour.
Mhm.
It's a grind, but it's such a good crew. It's what, we're part of it. We're part of the firm. Simon put together the firm, and it's just a bunch of great dudes, and we have a great time working together. It doesn't really feel like work a lot of the times.
House. House.
Apparently the hardwire
House. House. House.
Yeah, right.
House. 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 House.
It's just a great hang. Yep.
It's a great hang. The YouTube show, that was really cool. Seeing Eminem do a live performance and Lady Gaga. Oh, you know what was the coolest gig I did for Firehouse? And I never did one anything like it since then. It was such a cock tease. It was Richie Houghton at the Guggenheim. And Richie Houghton is like a pioneer of techno music out of Detroit. And I've been a fan of his for a long, long time. And he had this incredible installation with lights and video. And we did like this 360 sound around the whole place. I was working there. It was the first time I ever worked with Damien Shannon. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. And these are the kind of gigs I'm gonna do at Firehouse.
Did they have this crazy art hanging through the place, like half horses and shit? And
No, but they had this tower built in the middle of like, I guess, like the main floor, and it's kind of like a just a, I don't know, like a tower, four-side tower, but it had all these incredible projections that were video mapped, and it was just
I might have been there because I've done at least 4 shows at the Guggenheim.
yeah, there's like now, I'm trying to think
you,
about it.
you know
There's
what I
not.
remember the most from the Guggenheim is that there's this ramp outside that accesses the downstairs there's more of a
Yeah,
proper load in, and it's a ramp that kind of curves around as it goes down, right?
yeah,
A-
yeah.
and somewhere in the archives of Pete, I have a video of all of these road cases, all these red road cases that are all lined up, and the only thing keeping them from going through this glass door is this one little sandbag under one little wheel.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, if one singular grain of sand popped out of this bag, this whole train would go through this glass.
um, this is it. These are my favorite games for Firehouse.
Let's hear it.
Pearl Jam being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's a good one.
I was a monitor tech for Beauvais, so I was on stage when Pearl Jam was getting inducted.
Awesome.
And, I mean, I remember I'm a huge Pearl Jam fan. I got my Pearl Jam hat right here from when I saw him in Boston. Um, and then it was Global Citizen when Pearl Jam played.
Nice.
And just to be there. And I remember my buddy Carl was there because he was doing, Carl has this really cool gig now. He's a vocal effect processor. And he built this rig. He gets one line from monitors, that's the dry vocal. And he has a custom rig, custom effects to match the effects from the record. And the only people that are hearing what he's doing, he's following along to a teleprompter, is the artist.
Wow.
But so Carl was there with Beyonce, and Pearl Jam was headlining, and Carl loves Pearl Jam just as much as I do, and we were on stage with fucking Pearl Jam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was incredible. And like the day before, they were sound checking, and I'm sitting out in the lawn with Simon.
That's the best, man.
Like, yeah, like it doesn't get better than this. If you can't appreciate this, you shouldn't fucking be here.
Yeah, I hung out on the lawn for a Metallica sound check in last year.
Yeah.
And it's very, very rare for me to go out and listen to a sound check for anybody.
I wanted to do the same thing, but I thought about it.
Public,
Huh?
public.
Sure.
But definitely for them, it was terrific.
Yeah.
So, Mickey, tell me about what you are doing now.
So I got a call from Caroline, who is an amazing woman. She is one of the most talented audio engineers. She does
Sanchez.
Yeah.
Oh my God, she's terrific.
She's incredible.
She's terrific.
And just a beautiful person as well,
Yep.
She called me up last September. She's like, "Hey, would you want to come over here and work at SNL, Saturday Night Live?" And I said I would absolutely love to. And things kind of got put on hold for a minute because there was one Music A2 house position. And when they needed to bring in another person, they would add another person, but there was one guy. So from the time that Caroline asked me if I would like to come, they ran it through corporate to establish a second Music A2 house position. And I got the call. Actually, I got the call that they were going to bring me in Philly. So it went from an amazing day to I'm in the ER. But yeah, so Caroline,
bright side of being in the ER is getting a job at Saturday Night Live.
That's right. Caroline, it is because of her that I am there. They brought me in. I trained on the past 2 shows, and actually last night I got the text from NBC booking that I've been solidified as the second Music A2.
Oh, congratulations to you, man. Congratulations, because that is the thing about Saturday Night Live is that it has such a great history of having such great crews there over the years. I mean, without naming names, there's been a lot of great guys. And still are. I mean, you're certainly a great catch for them to have, and fitting right in with the vibe of it all.
Yeah, I'm so appreciative to be there. I really rolled the dice, when they called me from NBC and they sent me the schedule and like, would you be available for these dates? It was all contingent upon me going there and doing the job.
Yep.
And in order for me to be able to do that, I rolled the dice and left the View. Which was a full-time 6-figure per year production
Yep.
A2 job in New York City. And the View being one of the only Monday through Friday shows there is in the city.
Yep.
So I just believed in myself. I knew I could do it. And yeah, I said, fuck it, let's do it. And it worked out.
I'll say two things, right? First off is that you are right. There are only so many quality gigs in the city, real
Yeah.
quality gigs. The second thing I'll say is that good people work,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, you're a good person. You're good at what you do. You're a pleasure to be around. You're great to have.
Thank you, brother.
You're a real find, and they know that.
I appreciate that.
And good people work, and that's what it's all about. And the plenty of losers and zeros that get in and out for this and that reason. But for the most part, if you're really terrific at what you do and you're a niche,
Yeah.
and you got a niche thing,
Yeah.
you're definitely in. I mean, I couldn't work anywhere else in the country or the world with what I do for a living, the niches that I'm hired for,
Right.
because 99% of all shows do not need me there.
No, I feel that. So
You know,
one of the things was that Bob, he passed away 2 years ago during
uh,
COVID. He went into the hospital and they found that he had brain cancer, and because it was when we were in lockdown, so he never went home and we couldn't go see him, and that was really really
uh,
hard. And the first show that I worked at Saturday Night Live was one day after the 2-year anniversary of his death. And he believed in me so much. And I knew that he would be so proud of me, and that people generally, because of what the View is and the legacy that the View has, people don't there's not really many bigger shows in the city to move to.
yep.
And I moved to the biggest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like, where do you go from here, right? When I left
Yeah,
Radio City, I went to Madison Square Garden.
right. That's right.
Where do you go from here? Yeah. Well, Mickey, let me spin this around and let's talk about what you're doing now that's really hip, cool, fascinating, and interesting, and that is your awesome podcast.
Yeah, man. And the show is called The Spice, and it's the tag is music is the spice, and I started it during lockdown. To give you a quick history.
Please.
When we went into lockdown, all these DJs started doing these streaming sets. And I just thought they were boring as fuck because there wasn't any interaction with anybody. So I started throwing these Zoom parties, and they were pretty cool, but I didn't really understand the technology, and I didn't have a grasp on like what it takes to really put out a high fidelity audio and video product. I did this one party, and I mean, I had like 100 people in this Zoom. It was a cool party. It got bombed, and the next day, Chris Russo, Radar, calls me up and is like, "Hey, man, I really like what you're doing, and I want to help you. I have this partner, Kirsten, in LA, and I'd like to start like any virtual event production company." And I said, "Hey, man, let's do it." And our goal was to start a company where we could start hiring our friends that had lost their jobs because of COVID. So I started doing these different parties and things, and just trying to create content and create ideas for our company. And I did a show called The Spice, and I had Everett Bradley on. He was my first guest. He trusted me even though he was super skeptical.
Oh,
And
I dig that.
yeah,
You want to do
But
what?
exactly, yeah. But I don't know. I just show up, and
Yeah.
it grew from there. And what I say is the show is a spice. What the spice is a show where I connect people through a universal love of music by exploring the music, memories, experiences of extraordinary creative people, and that I break down social and economic barriers, because if you're a true music lover, which everyone who's on my show is, and all the people who watch my show are, we all have the common experiences, that we
Yep.
all have the soundtrack to our lives. We have the song that celebrates our best times, the song that gets us through our hardest times. And that's how I connect with people. And it started at a time where we needed connection.
Oh
we
yeah.
we were all locked in our homes, which was fucking insane, and
No
and
comment.
yeah, right. And so we did the first season and it was cool, and kind of started getting a vibe of what we were doing. And then the second season, when it was live, when you came on my show and we had an incredible conversation, you brought your friends and just had a great time at the club. And then the third season, it was like talking with my partner Chris about it, like having the live audience at the club where I'm catering to the audience and I'm making sure the bartender's there. It pulls me so many directions that I can't get comfortable. And
Yeah, you don't have that space
right,
where you could just take a minute, collect your thoughts, do what you got to do, because as you say, you're catering to other things.
right. So, Chris was like, and I've been friends with Chris for a long time. We used to tour at Hall&Oats together, and now we're business partners. And I really, when it comes to the technical thing, like having Chris as my technical manager is the best thing in the world, because I don't have to worry about anything because he's a genius.
He
But
is that.
he is. But
Give him that.
I've grown to trust his opinion when it comes to how he sees me, because he sees me directly through this lens,
Yeah.
where he sees when I'm stressed, he sees when I'm this or I'm that, and he sees when I'm on point, and when I'm relaxed, when I'm doing my best work. So I've grown. We've done, we're in our third season now, going on episode 9, and when he tells me something, and my ego may get in the way for a minute, but my heart always opens to him, and I know that he has my best interest. So that's why for this season we went back to doing virtual, where I'm comfortable, my guest is comfortable, they're at their home, and I'm not limited to New York City. I can have guests from anywhere because we're virtual again.
Yeah, and I tell you, I'm a fan of your show, and I watch your program. And the thing that I find interesting about it is that you're always asking questions, music questions that I've never contemplated before.
Yeah.
They're not just questions that I've never heard before. They're questions that I never yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's a genre that I'm not interested in, because
Right.
that doesn't matter to me, because I only care about quality.
Sure.
I only care about that somebody's, whatever they're doing, that they're good at it, and that they have some kind of that they're genuine about executing it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so to kind of like explain how the process works, I send all my guests a questionnaire. And season 1, I sent like 50 questions. Other people didn't want to be in my show.
So what is this? Who is
Yeah,
this?
right?
The FBI?
Right. So now I send my guest a questionnaire of 15 questions.
Yeah.
And the answer to each question is a song. I wrote some new questions the other day for my upcoming guests, and there's one question that I really like, because I want to kind of steer my show in this direction. And that question is, what song represents the person that you either want to make amends with, or you want to let them know how much you love?
Hmm.
So my guests will answer that question, and the answer is a song. The song represents the person. So during the interview, I play the song and I pose the question. And I believe that since all my guests are true music lovers, that and they chose these songs as answers to these questions, that the music really allows them to let down their guard and get in touch with their true emotions and give me a very genuine answer. And you're proof of it because we had a beautiful conversation.
Oh, it was great, and truthfully,
There's some DEA agents.
everything you're saying is true.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying is true, and you know, we all have our own nostalgia that we are attached to, you know, and nothing cracks that code like musically.
Yeah.
You know, it is the time machine for your mind. You know,
Right.
when you hear those frequencies vibrate in your ear of that thing that you were doing that reminds you of that one time when I was this age, hanging with this people, when we were doing this thing and we were listening to that, it just it just takes you right back to it. You know, right back
Exactly.
to your sweet spot of the mind. You know.
Yeah, and, and just connect and be real. Like when I had Whoopi Goldberg on, and I had Megan McCain, and they're kind of controversial figures in their own sense. But I got so much feedback from people that I humanize them.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's because I'm not talking to them about their celebrity. I'm not talking to them about any of that bullshit. I'm talking to them about their life and the soundtrack of their life. And we're, regardless of who you are, we're all human and we all have the same
Yep.
emotions.
And on top of that too is that when you break down, when you bring up like a certain artist or a certain genre and your certain song, and you're talking to somebody that you know you wouldn't agree with on any other subject, this and
Mhm.
that, but we both love this. We're fans, and it's great to drop everything in the world and just say, hey, you know what, I'm a fan, you're a fan, we're fans, this is really awesome, isn't this?
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like with Megan, and I love Megan dearly. She's a friend of mine. Um, when she's sitting there telling the story about how they would be at their ranch, and John McCain loved listening to ABBA. And you know what I mean?
I
You
wouldn't have guessed that in a million years.
know? Right? you know and she said, people would question his masculinity.
Yeah.
And he's like, I fucking listen to whatever I want. But but it's like,
Yeah. I
strip,
crashed 5 jets. I could listen to ABBA.
exactly, strip away everything, strip away the politics, strip
Yeah.
away all the bullshit. We're humans,
Yeah.
and we all have these experiences. And regardless if how your views line up with someone, when someone's talking about their father that they lost and they're talking about their
Yeah.
memories with them, if you can't connect with that person, I don't want you watching my show anyway.
Yeah. Dig that. Dig
Yep.
that. That's the other thing about it too, about making any kind of content, is that you have to make it for you,
Mm-hmm.
because that's it. You got to make it for you. I run under what I call the 33% rule, which is that 33% of all people that watch my content watch all of it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's who I'm really talking to, is whoever
Yeah.
wants to watch all of it.
Yeah, it's
You
interesting
know.
that you say that, because like you had said like my podcast, and I was talking to a publicist in LA today, and I corrected her that it's not a podcast, it's a show. And the reason I say that is because it can't be a podcast because of copyright law. um, I'm able to put my content on YouTube and put the highlights on Instagram and Facebook, and have my website, that musicisthespice.com, that hosts all of my episodes. But I cannot put my content, the audio or the video, on platforms like Spotify or Apple or any of the platforms that host podcasts,
Because
because
you get hit with the we hit the
they have much stricter copyright laws where they'll cancel me. They'll not let me be on the platform. So, and that leads me to, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, I could not have the music. I could change it so I could, have a podcast and maybe get more sponsors and maybe get more money. But I don't give a fuck about that because I love what I do, and
Yeah.
I love the show. And like all the guests that come on my show, just like your show, are guests that I ask to come on the show, and the people that I want to have conversations with. And I do have my Fly Right tattoo sponsor, and
Yep.
my show is growing, and it will grow. But I do it because I love it, and I'm not going to bend to these fucking stupid rules that I can't have a conversation with music playing at -20 under it.
Oh yeah, dig it. And I recommend anyone to digest your content at your website.
Oh, thank you.
That's the place to go digest content, and that's where I want people to digest mine too,
Yeah.
because it's easier to navigate, first off, and second off, I had a problem with Facebook where I've been shut out of my account on several occasions over
Okay.
hate speech and just this nonsense. It's like, and meanwhile, they're hitting me up that they want me to have a subscription service.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you want me to charge people money for a premium service while you're simultaneously locking me out of my account. How's
Right.
this relationship really work out?
Right.
So I took all of my stories, like stories that I write, my blog, what I call my blog stories. I took everything off Facebook. I put everything on my website.
Yep.
So you have to go there for if you follow my content, really drive it there. And the same with you. Because what you're doing, you don't want to be censored, you don't want to be shut out, you don't want to be told what to say.
Right.
We're not doing this for money. We're doing this because we're having a good time.
That's right.
It's just an activity.
No, it is. That's what it is. And the conversations, like I had my last guest on the show is Mina Caputo, the singer of Life of Agony. And I've been a fan of them since their album River Runs Red came out 30 years ago. And like she's all sorts of censored for her points of views and everything. But just to be able to have her on and have a flowing dialogue with her and be able to talk about whatever we want to talk about and say whatever we want to say. And I don't care if luckily, like I'm getting good responses to that, which I love because it's important, the things that she has to say. But I wouldn't give a fuck if no one watched it, because I got to have a 2-hour conversation with Mina. And that'll be like, I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and you have video evidence of it.
That's right. Yeah, when I'm too old to remember, I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, you got something to say. Yeah, I was here. Yeah, I mean, I love the spice. I love what you're doing. I mean, I support it all in the world. I mean, it's really a great place to go to your website, to go there, hang out for a little bit, drift through some of the videos, and really learn something new and hear a point of view that you're not going to get somewhere else, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what's also cool about the site, like two things that I'll mention is, so for each show, I create a Spotify playlist. And depending on how many songs are provided to me from my guest, the playlist isn't show order. So you can listen to the playlist, or you can sit there and watch the entire show. Also,
Nice.
I have just a page created called the Spice Foundation, and that is the 501c nonprofit that I should have my approval for, like, next week. They're kind of dicking me around about it, but I'm starting the Spice Foundation, and that is, I'm going to be raising funds for Operation Smile, because I have a cleft lip and cleft palate. And with Operation Smile and the Spice Foundation, for every $240 I raise, that gives an operation to someone who, generally maybe like in a third world country where they would never be able to afford $240.
That's fucking awesome.
But it changes their life, because these people, like, if you don't have the corrective surgery, you're going to have problems eating for your life. You will never be able to speak in a way that people understand you. You can become an outcast from your community. And I'll spend $240 on a nice meal with friends, so I'm just,
make sure there's a Bitcoin link.
Yeah, right. I will. But yeah, that's really important to me, that it's not just music is the spice. Now there's going to be the Spice Foundation, where so I'm not just having like really cool conversations with people and connecting with people. Now I'm changing people's lives, and that means a lot to me.
There's a lot to be said for micro differences in other people's lives. My wife and I do a charity once a year, and in the Philippines, where it used to be that we were feeding these kids, and now like we're feeding a whole village.
Yeah.
For a reasonable amount of money that makes a huge fucking difference in these people's lives, to come and get a a 20-pound bag of rice and a sack full of this, and take it home with you, and now you got food for ever how long. I mean,
Something that we take, an amount of money that we take absolutely for granted. We probably get more per diem per day than that costs.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like, even when I'm tipping somebody, it's like, is this going to make a difference in my life or theirs?
Right,
you know
exactly. And to be able to reach out, and like I say, like, if everyone in the world who was able just helped one other person, we would be in such a better place. But people don't. So those of us who are inclined to help need to help as many people as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's tough. I say you can't save the world, but you could put a dent in it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true.
You could put a
That's
ding in it.
true. But I tell you what, man, like these people that are going to be able to get these operations because of what we're doing. Like, that's the thing. Like, people kind of get a little freaked out about like nonprofits, whatever. Like the CEO of the Red Cross makes like $1 million fucking a year. Like, with Operation Smile, the $240 changes someone's life.
Yeah.
So there's a you see a direct impact on your efforts.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you give a lot of entertainment value all at the same time.
Yeah, have a lot of fun. We tell, like I said, we tell stories about strippers and DEA agents.
What's better than that? Mickey,
Nothing.
Mickey, what else you got on your mind that you want to spit out to the planet?
um you know um for the past few years, past long bunch of years, I've been a daily weed smoker, and I've always, throughout that entire time, have struggled immensely with anxiety. And even with taking Lexapro, and for the past few months doing ketamine therapy to help me with grief from losing people in my life, it still wasn't really cracking the surface. And I had mentioned that on January 1st, I just said, all right, I need to take a break. I haven't taken a break in well over a decade, and I need to take a break. And the change that I felt in the past month, and this is a hard time of year for me because, like I said, Bob's anniversary just passed. 1 month to the day after Bob died, my father died.
Wintertime, we're shut in.
Yeah, and so I was fucked, and anxiety at an all-time high. And by taking this break, I feel like a different person. My I don't have I don't have these obsessive thoughts and ruminations anymore, where I just get into the spin cycle of anxiety and can't get myself out of it. And the only thing I want to do is sleep, because I don't want to be thinking about things I don't want to think about. So I love weed, and I can't wait to get high again. But I was actually thinking about taking a little toke tonight before this, but I was like, you know what? Like, I've been doing my best work, not stoned. So, I think that maybe I'll do this. And so I just want to share with people that, like, if you find yourself like really struggling with anxiety and struggling with intrusive thoughts, and you're smoking weed all day, and and people are gonna feel me when I'm talking to them, because I know there's a lot of people like this. It's like I get high and the anxiety ramps up, and then the high wears off and the anxiety comes down, and I know the second I fucking get high again, it's gonna be that cycle. Yet I wouldn't stop myself. I would and it was almost like torturing myself. So, like, I'm not against weed. I'm not against. I mean, I'm all about all sorts of recreational drugs used responsibly. But if you find yourself really struggling with anxiety and struggling with these things, just take a break. You know, I've seen so many people on the internet and on TikTok and things like saying this exact same thing, that I used to struggle with anxiety. I used to have, nonstop worrying thoughts, and then I stopped smoking weed, and it changed my mind completely. And I'd be like, it's bullshit. And then I stopped, and it was kind of like it almost became a part of my identity, where I would never be blazed on gigs, but I felt like after the gig, I wouldn't be drinking at the bar, but I'd be high as fuck. And and I'd be like the stoner dude,
Yeah.
and I felt like if I wasn't that I was kind of like letting go of a part of who I am that people love. And it's not true,
No.
because I feel better than I did then. So that's all really. That's the only thing I'd really want to share, is that if people are out there struggling, just take a fucking break. Let your mind become unsticky, and
What was it like to have dreams again?
it's terrible. I've been having nightmares every night, and I've talked to other people. Have reached out to me and said that they've gone through the same thing, and it's always like this morning. I had to get to Newark by 1:40 in my dream. I had to get to Newark by 1:45. I ended up going some other place. I'm always every night. It's a different scenario with the same theme, that I need to get somewhere and I can't get there. And it's this morning, it felt almost like what my buddy described as sleep paralysis, where I felt like I was awake, but I couldn't get out of the dream. And that's going to stop. If not, I'm just going to start taking tincture at night.
Yeah, I can't sleep without cannabis,
Yeah.
just pure and simple. Can't sleep without it.
Yeah.
Because I can't just shut the brain down, and I can't survive the dreams that I get without it.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
I've had
tough.
dreams where I'm in Manhattan and there's a gorilla in front of me riding a skateboard, throwing bananas for turn signals. I'm trying to pass him.
You're playing too much Mario Kart.
Something's going on, but I definitely need the cannabis to sleep.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think that there's just a lot of stuff in my subconscious that I've just numbed for a long time, and now it's kind of coming to the surface, and it's a really difficult time of year for me. But I know that had I not taken a break, I'd be white knuckling it right now.
Yeah, well, what do they say about anxiety? Is that's when you're concerned about the future, and depression's when you're concerned about the past.
Yeah, I feel that it's just like it's just like, let me tell you how to be enlightened.
Yeah, it's a tough item just to let go and
Right.
jump into the world. Earth is
Yeah.
a scary place. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. But, it's a lot less scary for you because, you have a great place, you have a great career, all
Yeah.
your friends love you,
And I love them.
and like what else is important in life and your health, and that's it.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
yeah.
everybody loves Mickey.
I appreciate that, bro. I love everybody. And, that's one thing that I learned from my buddy Carl, when he started really, studying um, Joseph Campbell and Ram Dass. When you love someone, just tell them, and that's why, like, I have no qualms with letting my friends know that I love them. And I've seen it, and I've received feedback from people that me sharing that love that Carl shared with me changed them. And now they tell people they love them, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
Don't be
when
afraid of
someone
it.
tells you when someone tells you love them, it only makes you feel good.
Yeah, dig that. And the brutal reality is that you never know when's the last time you talked to somebody.
Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Yep.
brother, this was some good time that we had tonight.
Yeah, it was, man. This was awesome.
This was awesome, and this has to be something that we certainly have to do it again because we have so many other things to talk about
Yeah, for sure.
for another day. You know,
No, this was great, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
it's a
Um,
DJ Mickey D,
that's me.
thespice.com, right?
Musicisthespice.com.
Musicisthespice.com.
That's right.
Man, love this guy. Love this conversation. This was awesome. Mickey, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah,